Hey there, Internet friends. Trevor Starkey here with another episode of What I Feel Like Fridays. This week, I'm going to go ahead and tackle anxiety, which is a weird thing for me because I feel like I didn't used to be as anxious. Um, so, a little bit of backstory. Like, my entire life, I've kind of felt like I'm introverted. When I was growing up, I didn't know introverted versus extroverted, but I was always the kid that, like, I enjoyed hanging out alone, playing my video games. When my parents wanted me, my mom mainly wanted me to go out and, like, spend time with friends. My sister was much better at doing that. She was the one that would always go out and spend time hanging out with friends. I would go and spend time with friends in, like, a few of us would go and play video games at somebody's house. But I was always more content and more happy to just kind of stay in and do my own thing. So once I eventually kind of started learning introvert versus extrovert, I was like, oh, I'm definitely an introvert. After spending years and years doing theater and stuff, I kind of got used to playing the role of an extrovert, and I would, go out and have fun at theater parties and stuff, and I would, I would, especially like we're talking college now, college level, I would go out, a few times a week and hang out with theater friends, and just kind of enjoy weekends, drinking and hanging out with people and being out. I still much more felt like I was more myself when I was just kind of by myself and hanging out and doing my own thing. But I didn't get as overwhelmed going out. There were definitely still times where I would be out, though, and a switch would just flip, and I'd be like, I need to not be around people now. And I would just kind of leave the party and head home or something like that. Often just kind of ghosting and not saying bye, and people would, like, send me a text and be like, you're not dead, right? Where'd you go? What happened? And I'd just kind of be like, yeah, I just needed to not be there anymore. Sorry. And so I bring all of this up because a couple years ago, when I kind of really stepped away from the theater community, in favor of more of like my gaming community kind of side of things, I stopped going out on any kind of regular basis. I used to go at least like once a weekend. I'd be out at the bar and hanging out with theater people and visiting and drinking and talking about theater. And last weekend, I went out to a couple theater events. There were the theater that I used to do a lot of stuff at had a couple fundraisers this last weekend, so I went out and kind of saw some old faces. And I've continued going to the theater, and I've continued seeing some of the people that I knew from like my quote unquote old life. But as more and more like new faces pop up, I find myself getting more and more anxious because I feel uncomfortable being around so many people that I don't know. It took years to kind of like build up and be used to be able to go to something like the bar or something, and like I'd know enough people there that I could just kind of bounce around, and even in these extroverted settings, I could have like one-on-one conversations with people I knew. That's where I'm comfortable, even in kind of extroversion. And going out more recently, I find myself like panicking effectively because I'm like, I don't know anybody here, or the couple people I do know, they're going to be cordoned off and talking to each other, and so I don't have anybody to talk to, and I'm not good at meeting new people. I'm not good at introducing myself to new people. The like main exception here being when I go out to like kind of funny stuff or video game stuff, events and stuff like that, I kind of click back into that old mode where I can play the role of the extrovert. And this is kind of way back at Kind of Funny Live 1, Alex O'Neill wrote a very nice thing after we had met about how he didn't believe that I was an introvert because of how outgoing and how friendly I had been that weekend. And it was like, no, I can like, we met on an Uber ride over to Wing Wings, so I was able to kind of like force the connection there in a very small setting, and then I was able to kind of fall back on that for the rest of the weekend, where I could be like, okay, there's lots of people around. I'm gonna find like one or two anchor points, and I still kind of do that. But I do kind of turn on the like I always say, I try and do like a Greg Miller impression when I'm at events, and I'll do kind of a, hey, how you doing? You having a good time? You having a good weekend? Let's talk about something that we have in common, obviously, at a lot of these events, video games or something like that. So I can still kind of fall back into those old habits, but I definitely, like, it's been nice doing the video game thing and really being able to just kind of like sit in and write for a couple hours a night, or sit here and talk to a camera, and kind of experience the world from a distance, and do that where I'm not feeling overwhelmed by being out with people. And that was what I kind of had to face down again last weekend when I bought the ticket for the fundraisers and stuff, and I was going to these events, but like 2 hours beforehand I was like, don't want to go, I'm just going to not go. And I had to fight through that to actually go out and make an appearance and see some of those, old friends from my kind of old life. And it was good. I felt glad I did it. I don't know how frequently I can do that kind of thing, and that's like, there is kind of a lovely, it's nice that events aren't as crazy frequent as like me going out every month and being kind of overwhelmed in these big social settings. But I can kind of spend a few months here at home, kind of like charging up my batteries and getting ready for a PAX, and then I can go to PAX and like just kind of unleash everything for the weekend, see people, have great conversations, be in big group settings, and not like and not be like, oh, there's too many people, and survive these kinds of experiences. The flip side to all of this, of course, is that it is a very solitary, kind of lonely lifestyle, and I've got like a couple friends here that I can go and just like catch up with, once every couple weeks, like Cameron Abbott. He and I have kind of made this routine of going and grabbing Portillo's around pay-per-view events, and that's been nice to kind of not make me a complete hermit, but I definitely feel like this prolonged kind of experience of resigned introversion is maybe taking a more mental toll on me. I am finding myself always tired these days, and I imagine there's a part of that that's like just an innate depression or something going on with me, and like loneliness and whatnot. But it wears on me at times. Like every day this week, I basically got home from work and just kind of crashed for a couple hours, woke up, sat down, started doing this stuff, and then edited it, and then went and maybe played some video games or watched a movie or TV or something like that. And it's a nice routine, but it feels empty sometimes, and that's tough. That's not great, and then I start getting anxious about that. So I think kind of I'm falling into this I'm falling into this rhythm where there's a push and pull of like, I get anxious by myself, and so I might go to a movie where I'm not going to talk to anybody, but I'm at least out and around people, and kind of feeling that connection to the other, to kind of get me over until the next event or something. The next time I am going to be around friends and people outside of just the digital space that I think we kind of so often communicate with, and especially me, how frequently I'm basically interacting with people over Twitter, and that's about it. So it was weird seeing faces last week of people who I only see maybe once or twice a year now, but I used to see every week. And they, it's also weird kind of being like, well, what have you been up to? Oh, I'm doing this video game thing now, and they're like, oh, that's cool. What have you been up to? And they're like, oh, doing the theater thing, and then we just like these people I could have hours and hours and hours long conversations before we hit like 2 minutes in, and then there's just nothing. And there is a weird depression even invoked by that, where I'm like, oh, like I miss talking with this person, but we can't get over this barrier of having nothing to talk about for whatever reason. Like in this little obviously impromptu session, we're not gonna sit down and have one of these deep conversations that we might have elsewhere. But it still feels odd that like we get 2 minutes in and neither of us really know how to end the conversation, so we just kind of be like, okay, well, I'm gonna go fake this excuse and walk over this way. Bye. I don't know. This has kind of been a rambly topic, but that's what I've been dealing with. What I've been thinking about today. So those are my thoughts on anxiety, and pushing yourself outside of your boundaries is a nice thing, but also recognizing your own limitations, and when you got to say, nope, I'm gonna go ahead and just leave, or I'm just gonna go ahead and do my own thing. That's okay too. If any of that made sense, let me know what your experiences with all this kind of stuff are in the comments below. As always, I've been your host, Trevor Starkey from TrevorTrove.com. You can follow me at SnarkyStarkey on Twitter. And until next time, from here at the Trove, treasure your friends.